Hello, grade nines, and welcome to your first online social studies lesson as we start Chapter 5 Immigration in Canada. Now, I know we had briefly started this before all this craziness happened, but just to be safe, just like math, in case we forgot anything or missed something, let's just start from scratch here again online. So, the first burning question and the thing we got to cover first is immigration. What is it? Um, Hopefully, you remember from the definition that we did that immigration is the process of basically of people moving from their native land or the land they were born in, they grew up in, to a country that is not theirs and creating a home and citizenship and a new life there. So I like to show these pictures because these are very old pictures promoting immigration to Canada. Obviously, we wanted people to move here and start families and start farms when Canada was early and settling so that we could grow our economy and put more money into Canada so that we could have a more prosperous nation overall. And I like this. You notice from these posters, lots of people, um, beautiful prairie landscapes and blue skies, and really looking like it'd be a great place to come and start your family and life at. So, a few new terms other than immigration, like we just said, the process of people moving to and establishing a life in a country that is not their native country. We also have immigration or emigration. So, if you remember, we also had this term on our introductory assignment, and emigration is to leave your own country and settle in a new one. So it's kind of the opposite of immigration, where immigration is people coming into your country, emigration is for you to leave and go to a new country yourself. Finally, we looked at demographic as well, and demographic is just the characteristics of a population. So demographic of Alberta would be predominantly Caucasian or white individuals. We have lots of Native Canadians living here as well. And because we're Canada, we have a large mix of everybody, but demographic would be like the majority characteristics of your population. Why do people immigrate to Canada? So take a second here. Pause the video if you need to, grab a piece of paper, and just jot down or think in your mind, try and give me two or three reasons why people would want to immigrate to Canada. Okay, hopefully you had a couple seconds to look at that. And I pulled this picture right out of your textbook. I like it. It gives us a bunch of different reasons here. So, the biggest chunk of this pie of all the immigrants coming to Canada, and this was taken from 2006, are economic immigrants, 55%. And as you can see below that, economic immigrants are saying they are skilled workers and business people. So people that are coming to Canada to work, doctors, teachers, even anybody that's coming from their country to come to Canada, where maybe there's more opportunity for the skilled experience and training that they have. Over here we have refugees, 13%. So refugees, as you can read below, are people who are escaping persecution. So meaning that they were having unjust or unfair things done to them because of their race, gender, culture, anything like that. Uh, Escaping torture or cruel and unusual punishment, sometimes escaping war and poverty, so not having very much money in other countries. That's 13% of immigrants coming to Canada. We have family class making up 28%, so that's the wives and husbands and partners, children, parents or grandparents of people that are already living in Canada coming over to rejoin their family and live together as one family again here in our country. And then we also have other. So anything that wouldn't fall, oops, bad line, anything that wouldn't fall into those other three categories. And they've given some ideas like humanitarian or compassionate reasons. And I think the question everybody always wants to ask, especially in today's day and age, is how do we keep everybody safe when we've got people from different countries with different belief sets and different ideas coming and living in the same country? How do we keep everybody safe? And that doesn't just go for the Canadians already living here, which I think some people forget that this is also about keeping immigrants coming to Canada safe as well. Because if you can imagine coming from your country into a brand new one where you're more likely going to be in the minority and everybody does things differently and speaks and acts differently, that would be a pretty scary experience for you as well. So we need to think about keeping Canadians already living here safe, and also immigrants coming from other countries. We need to make sure that they're safe from persecution and discrimination, and that they're helped to integrate into our society as well. Luckily for us, we have an act that helps with that. It's called the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. And this is an act that was created in 2002. We'll look a little bit more closely at it. It was last amended, and if you remember, when we talk about making an amendment, it means to make a change or to update something. So this was last updated or amended in June of last year, 2019. So this is a law or an act that is continuously looked at and made sure it's still relevant and proper and changed when it needs to be. But it was created in 2002. It's got two main points. Number one, it establishes categories of who can come to Canada. So basically, this act says who is allowed to come to Canada, who do we accept, um, and it says it also lays out the objectives or the reasons for those categories. So basically, why do we accept immigrants? This act says that. Why would we want to accept people? Why do we allow people to come? What's the point of doing that? And we're going to look a little bit more closely at those objectives as well. But these are just the two main things that the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act provides us as Canadians. So to look a little closer at those objectives, the first one here, and I apologize for these letters look a little weird on here, but it's another picture I took out of the textbook because I like a lot of the information they give you in there. But some of the objectives that pertain to um, immigrants, not refugees. So for this one, we're looking at immigrants, not including refugees. Um, is to pursue social, cultural, and economic benefits for all Canadians. So obviously, it makes sense. We want to learn about other cultures and we want to be diverse because that's what makes us Canadian. And it's important to know about everybody else and be accepting, but also economic benefits to bring people over that are skilled and more skilled than some people we have here. To work and produce money in Canada, right? Definitely a huge benefit there. Um, I'd like to draw your attention for a second to these second two, because I think it ties right into what we've been talking about all year. Respect the bilingual and multicultural character of Canada. We talked about the Charter, protecting French and English and protecting the multicultural character of Canada. While not only is it in the Charter, it's tied right in to the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act as well. Support the development of minority official language communities in Canada. Obviously, if we have people coming from countries that speak different languages, this act would have to help to produce communities where that language and the transition from that language into English, if they choose, would be supported as well, right? Once again, minority official language communities recognized in our charter. Um, and then the other ones are a little bit more specific. So just share the benefits of immigration and a prosperous economy kind of ties back into the first one again. I think these two are very similar. Reunite families in Canada. We talked about that in our third reason for why immigrants come. And then the last one, pretty wordy, promote the successful integration of immigrants into Canadian society, blah blah blah, basically just saying that this act, the objective of it is to make sure that it's a smooth transition for people coming into Canada and it's not a super terrifying and difficult time for them. Now I have another one that does deal specifically with refugees, and the objectives for Canada's refugee program, or the refugee part of this act, is to save lives and offer protection, important, to people who are displaced and persecuted. So the idea of refugees is to take people in that are in danger or being discriminated against. To fulfill and affirm Canada's international commitment to protect refugees. So, lots of times the entire world gets together and says, hey, we all need to do our part in making sure that countries that are less fortunate, their people have a place that they can seek refuge at. Get this one out of the way here. Grant fair consideration to people who claim to be persecuted. Once again, I think that ties into these first two as well. Um, and offer refuge to people facing persecution because of race. So I think a lot of these um, four categories here are kind of saying the same thing, but just a little different in each one. So basically, the idea is to make sure that Canada is a safe haven for people who are facing war and poverty and discrimination, persecution, that they can come here and we'll accept them and take care of them until it's safe to either go back or they choose they want to become a Canadian citizen in the end as well. Can you be turned away? As an immigrant coming to Canada, can you be refused access coming in? You absolutely can. Remember that we're trying to keep everybody safe, including the immigrants coming and the ones that are already here. So, we're not going to get too far into this today. That'll be our topic for next time, the requirements. But what I'd like you to do is one of your assignments today is going to be brainstorming about this. So think about this question. Before we get into that, let's look at the homework for today. So, number one, like I just said, brainstorm and answer the first question posted in classroom. And that question is, what are two reasons you can think of that an immigrant would be refused access to Canada? What are two reasons that you think that we might say, sorry, but we can't allow you access into our country at this time? Number two, there's an exit ticket called Intro to Immigration, and it is just a quick little review about the uh, presentation you just watched and listened to. Um, what I need you to do is I need you to score at least 80% on that intro ticket or that exit ticket. If you do not, that's okay. You can go back and try it again. Um, you could watch the video again if you need to. You can do both those things as many times as you need, but before you finish, you do have to have at least provided one score of 80% or more on that exit ticket, just so I know that you understood what we went through. And then the last thing you need to do, quick little homework today, not much, is to provide an answer to the second question posted in classroom. And that second question is just going to ask you to look at some posters about immigration of the past, kind of like we did at the beginning of this video, and uh, analyze and think about that a little bit. So, with that being said, good luck, guys. As always, email, jump in my office hours at 2 o'clock if you have any questions at all. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing you on Friday.